my legs will be shaking now, but I think with the comfort from my little office, probably I'll be able to not getting too nervous. Right. First of all, thank you very much, everyone, for joining this session. I am Luca Paderi, and I work for Nottingham University Hospital NHS Trust, which is an acute hospital. We have a 1.5, 1.6 billion turnover, so large teaching hospital. This might come as a disappointment, but I'm not an expert in productivity, but I am lucky enough to work with amazing colleagues who have delivered some very, very good piece of work. So I will go fast today. This is not meant to be an educational or session, and I won't go much into details or theory. I would like to cover this in about 45 minutes and hopefully leave some time at the end for people to contribute, because as I would like to showcase this experience for allow people to really reflect, to have an idea, or to even contribute or start conversation on those topics. And those are the topics I will be covering, which I'll find very exciting. I was contacted before the session to requesting if I could cover PLICs in particular. I was also asked not to cover pigs, that was covered in previous session last week. We, as I say, we have about 1 hour, and I won't go avoid unnecessary detail, and strangely enough, I'll try to be productive. Right. First, I just want to clarify, and I would like to look at the definition of productivity and look at what is available out there in terms of definition. In terms of productivity is more about quantity and of output, and efficiency is more about work and energy. However, when we use one of the other, I think, or one for the other, we are not making big mistakes. At NUH, productivity is a work stream within the overall efficiency program. And simply when we do more with the same or same with less, we look after more patient generally. So even when we do same with less, we divert resources to do more patient. And when we do more patient, we do more activity, but we have less weights and we have better outcomes. If we slot this information in the value equation that you're probably familiar with, by achieving productivity, we are creating value. And this is kind of a line that we can use, or we use generally, to engage with clinicians that are not much concerned about productivity, but they definitely care about value for patients. Saying that, I want to stress the importance of flow for productivity. And this is because I've just drawn a little simple scenario of an acute ward. This is a very simplistic. You know very well that in reality there's much more than that. But I want to show that on the right-hand side, we have planned care and inpatients and day case. And with a consistent level of productivity, we would have the need for a certain number of beds. So capacity will be dependent on length of stay, overflow from non-elective, and medically safe or transfer patients. On the left-hand side, we have the front door and A&E and the assessment beds. So in this situation, base ward should receive or pool patients from both A&E and the assessment beds. If medically safe or transfer patients are occupying beds, we try to overflow in elective. Some help might come from virtual ward, but the situation that we see often is the patient are waiting corridors. That means that we are spending money for agencies to look after this patient in corridor, and now we're exposing patient to unnecessary risks. Patients in assessment beds are waiting, and for people who have done some costing on assessment beds, we know that they are far above a standard base ward cost. So a lot of waste in the and unnecessary cost of resource expenditure in expensive resource. So what happened here? We can't use theatre. So even if we are productive, so we are wasting assets, we're wasting salaries, we're keeping patient in the wrong place. And that's why when you step back and you think about productivity, the first thought is about, I need to make sure I fix the flow issue before I look at the productivity. There's no point to have an amazing car in the garage where you got no fuel. So I want to talk about a case study about medically safe for transfer patient. Here at Nottingham University Hospital, we had on average last year about 270 patient supported discharged patient waiting to be discharged. So we use our business intelligence tools, the live dashboard that tell exactly where those patients are anytime. So in order to try to understand why this number has increase and stay at that level, we obviously invest some resource into investigation of these issues. So we checked our internal discharge with our internal discharge team and integrated transfer of care hub to try to understand few cases or take some sample and understand why we were keeping so many patients, and emerged that some of the patients that we have in our dashboard were not have not reached their discharge teams, and so they couldn't do anything about it. And when we look into it, we ask the why and why and why, and go deeper in the root of the problem. We realized that it was a simple admin issue. So the discharge to assess form that we should have reached the discharge team didn't go because we, as a policy, we had to send it to start the process of completing it for 24 hours. But it sometimes was unsent, was incomplete, or less to the day after, and that's why we had more patients that those teams were aware. So we changed the policy, we implemented from one day to the other. We dropped the number of patients by 60. So what is the anecdotal evidence here? So we always say it's all local authorities' fault. However, we found out that this was only partially true. And if people know about how much, so 60 patients is about 2 wards, and 2 wards we probably are looking about 3 million on average. Cost of a ward, so £7 million of potential cost being reduced, or resources being invested for more value-adding activity. So we have other way to check. This is come from Plix, and is a way to associate the cost of the medically safe or transfer patient. So they just showing the drop in patient. I mean, this dashboard doesn't work in calendar mode, works on discharge. And some patient might have stayed longer than a month, so possibly not. The drop in cost has been smoothed down a little bit. And the cost, to be honest, since then has gone up a little bit, but for other factors that we have been investigating and found out the reason, like, for example, type of patient that cannot be easily discharged. But just to look at the dashboard, we had in 12 months to April, April 2023, about 37,000 patients in 12 months, almost 3 days on average. And just in HCOP, or geriatric medicine, about £19 million of unnecessary costs. What else we use the technology for around medically safe for transfer? So we partner with the consultancy firm to try to help us with discharge planning and try to make sure that we maximize the use of our resources. And we have, so they have developed in partnership with our digital service team, an extension to our PAS, the patient administration system, to predict the medically safe dates. We're using artificial intelligence, look at history, look at comorbidity, look at age, postcode, and use an algorithm to predict the date of discharge. So the model now predicts about 50% with accuracy, 1 day accuracy, the date of discharge against the 30%, 35% of clinician. So the integrated discharge team highlight that improved in accuracy, the increased stability of predicted medically safe patient has reduced rework and waste in the management of the patient discharge. Consultants were initially not very keen, but then they realized there was something that they had to do, and they're very, very happy. So it's working fine and helping with discharges. Another important part of the flow process, improving flow process, STEC, that all of you are familiar with, but it's an emergency patient admitted and discharged in the same day. So it might require some resources to be redirected to a STEC area, but the benefit is enormous, especially for patients, because, as you know, stay in hospital exposed patient to additional risk such as acquire infection. So looking at the September dashboard, we could monitor by ward, by day, our STEC activity. And September, 37% of all emergency admits were treated as STEC. And this is very important because recently when we done investigation about the impact of the medically safe for transfer, we noticed that some of the offsetting elements that have not allowed us to use those beds in full was the decreased use of STEC areas. So we need to get everything right to make sure that we maximize the use of resource and increase our productivity. I'm going to have another slide on STEC when I'm talking about PLIX. But just moving on, just to summarize some other initiatives that are allowing us to improve flow. Virtual wards, as I mentioned earlier on, initially was fully funded by NHS England. This year is match funding with the ICB, and next year the ICB hopefully will continue to fund in full. But we currently have about over 30 beds of virtual beds, and that's more or less a ward. So if you know how much cost the wards, I mentioned earlier about £3.5 million. Definitely the virtual wards program is costing us much less, and there is still a room for improvement because now we rely on some independent sector provider for some of the contacts. Another initiative, collocated treatment center, to avoid unnecessary admission, training to make sure that the discharge process are consistent. Reverse bed chain to try to pull the patient from crowded area before the bed is available, saving the time that is used to transfer the patient from ED to the ward. Criteria discharge for patients that are just waiting for a simple test. They don't need to see a consultant again, and nurse can discharge them by looking at just some criteria. Frailty pathway redesign, and this is to make sure that there are some alternative pathways for elderly frail people that is just not going to ED, which is, we know that is not ideal for elderly people, that this management in the community could be much better and look after the patient in a much better way. And bed scheduling tool, this is used for planning, so accuracy in emergency bed prediction, and also electives, so they can help us to make sure that we put the right level of resource in place for our activity. So now, the core of this session, productivity, theatre productivity. So, but it's just worth mentioning that before we could formally really start working on productivity, we spent months arguing about productivity performance, starting from where the productivity and what reason and the action needed for productivity. So we had, as I say, anecdotal evidence. For example, patients are more acute, and they got more comorbidities, or we are productive, or there's more junior consultant now than used to be. And so we had to take all these arguments and try to dice them and respond and give evidence that we actually lost a lot of productivity in the last few years. But thanks to our business intelligence, to our head of costing, which we call, many of you know, is Scott Hodgson. We call him Costing Legend, which is deserving full, but he's really help us to take all the information from the data feed from the model hospital, use the same methodologies, a methodology that was recognized by the consultant to say, look, acuity has not changed. And without the information, we wouldn't be able to respond or to put pressure on them to try to work more on productivity. But going on the what we have done, so we have partnered again with the independent consultancy firm to try to resolve peer scheduling. So firstly, we need to make sure that best practice for scheduling was implemented. So make sure that rota was complete and set early enough, but also use the 8642 practice, which probably most of you know by. It's basically 8 weeks before the procedures, the annual leave need to be locked, so we know the resource that we need for the procedures. The specialties need to confirm and within 6 weeks and build a list down to locking the list 2 weeks before the procedures, and anesthetist 1 week before. Just with the pilot, we found opportunity or additional 1,305 cases just across 6 specialties, and we quantified this opportunity about £4.5 million worth of additional net income. It's astonishing, but this is just basically trying to get the basic right. Those are large numbers. I mean, we are a large organization, but they are still considerably large number that we will be really give a lot of attention to. So this is what it looks like. So we start with a target of 85%, and we use these dashboards, these tools in 2 ways. Firstly, with the weekly scheduling meeting, which is best practice again, where you have waiting list specialties, understanding the acuity and the urgency of patient, and we look at 3 weeks line by line. So we try to see where there are gaps, and we can drill down to see individual lists and the tools. What it does, which is the amazing things, it pulls out all the individual consultant waiting list, and what it does, it gives you the list of people who, based on the condition that the procedure, can be added to the list to make sure that we complete and is maximized. So we were going about 97% a while ago. We already looking by just initial testing and review with the team, a massive improvement in theatre productivity. So I don't want to throw a number because it's still ongoing, and there are many factors that contribute, but this is definitely right thing to do. It cannot be disputed, and the service loves it, because when they challenge the data to the point where they cannot change it anymore, they can't change it anymore, they just start loving it, because this is reality and helping me to do my job effectively. Another tool, another problem we try to solve is resource alignment. And despite you would expect such a large organization to have a clear alignment resources between demand and capacity, we are not. Simply as that. And we are trying now to make sure that we understand what capacity we need to create to address our backlog, but most importantly, how can we plan for staff? Because at the moment, we have mismatch between the number of theatre session and the number of theatres PAs in consultant job plan. That means that when the consultant use the theatre PA, everything else is WLI or additional payment. And that is really just simple waste of money. This is what it looks like. Again, on the left, activity, theatre, schedule, session availability by specialty, by division, resource in the middle, capacity, job plans, PAs, theatre staff, and on the right-hand side, backlog and underlying demand. And this is very important for planning because it's often things that are not taken into consideration. We're looking at activity, we let the specialty go on with what the activity they believe they can deliver, and often we have requests for additional WLI when we we can use contracts when we employ new consultant and job plan conversation just to fulfill those sessions without having to be loss making. Other information, so again, dashboards, data, transform in information inside, and inside help us to start looking in the right place. So as everyone does here in this room, in this call, probably we look at Model Hospital. We also use HEAD, which is health episode data from Birmingham University Hospital, which is a bit more refresh more often, so that as you probably know, Model Hospital sometimes doesn't update early enough for you to be able to present information to stakeholder consultant to try to do something about this. So the best information we have is our data. And our data, we can drill down to the lowest level. So we can see that this is in session utilization dashboard by date, by specialty, by theatre, by consultant, which I just grayed out for data protection reason. And if I was an head of service, I would be spending lots of time on this dashboard and try to address the problem, understanding why. We do this one with some dedicated programs, work, but it's definitely something that we should be looking often. And as a finance department, this is something that I always try to get people to do, make sure they are familiar, look at the dashboard, have a conversation with the consultant, share the data, make sure that you are aware of the area that are potentially driving finance issues. We also look at late starts and in-session utilization, in turnaround time. And for example, this is just a dashboard that I filtered by reason for late start. And the reason is surgeon delay. Mm-hmm. You would expect that it would be given that the surgeon start in time. Mm-hmm. And most of the time is, but here we can see that 11% of the late start is
one person.
No, it's more. It's not one person. There are many people, more person on the team, and it's 11.4%. People have challenged the data. We shadow theaters for weeks, and we confirm that those things happen and continue to happen. Surgeon turn up late. So, as I say, this is not a solution. This is a starting point to look at, because as I say, there are reasons. There could be data quality reason, but at least we have a place to start our investigation to try to find a solution. Just want to give an example of theatre productivity, high volume, low complexity GERS review for cataract. Many of you probably been involved in this review that we've been asked to conduct by NHS England probably about 1.5 to 2 years ago. We were one of the worst performers in the country for cataract, and we struggled initially with engagement, but again, we ended up with the right people involved. So the ophthalmic anesthesia lead, a consultant, Gert lead, a consultant. You probably know, as I say, Adam Carney, who was shortlisted for the consultant last year at the HFMA conference in December, who is very, very passionate and just want the best for patient. And having Adam in the team was crucial. With the head of costing, or the costing legend, Scott, deputy director of program, Richard Smith, who has Richard has launched a WAVE program many years ago, and now other organizations are implementing this model after Joanne O'Brien presented on stage last HFMA conference last year. There was me, there was a head of service, there was theater staff and surgeon, and basically we shared the data. We understood that the main issue was turnaround time, and together, so we asked the question to the service, and the service found the solution, to be honest. So the problem was not the inability to do the blocks, the anesthetics before the patient was going to the theater. So we had to wait for the previous patient to finish, clean, get the patient in, do the blocks, and so the turnaround time was very long. So they found a room, an anesthetic room, and we use some tool trolley, like very flexible reclining chairs that were able to go around the corridor and get to the theater very comfortably, and be also used as an operating table. So the time became, between the turnaround time became very short, just a little bit of time for cleaning, a little small break for the surgeon, and go another one. So we went from 4 to about 8, 10, and additionally to the engagement and the enthusiasm and the motivational boost of the whole team and the rest of the specialty, we had an equivalent additional income of £350,000, and an email from Tim Briggs congratulating personally for the achievement. So a lot of good stuff from this, and there are other situations where the same group of people, almost the same, have delivered amazing result in improving productivity and their case rate. So I was asked to talk about Plix. I'm not going to disappoint you. So you all know Plix as that collects all the data feed and produce a patient level profit and loss account. But because the richness of this data, we can use all this information to identify opportunities. So this is a standard kind of first page of Plix that we have at Nottingham University Hospital. And you can see margin by patient, by specialty, by consultant, filter by point of delivery, treatment function core, HRG. You can slice and dice, and you can identify loss-making procedures, specialty area. You can really do a lot of analysis, not just simply looking at an income and expenditure statement. This is give you a completely different level of insight. So this is the classic Plix table that I remember when I used to be a business partner. It was in Excel, and I used to just download the data, and I had the first diagnosis, all the length of stay, the consultant, all the information, and you could drill down, try to find a cohort of patients with similar characteristic, and try to understand internal variation, for example, different length of stay for the same condition by consultant, understanding whether it was a weekend handover issue or any different incongruence in process and protocols. So give you a way to start the inquiry and sit with the consultant and look at the health records to understand what's happening in reality. So, and this is thanks to the pre and post medically safe or transfer flag. We can identify as a discharge by consult, HRG, period pod, but this dashboard do much more than that. For example, those flags, the diagnosis flag, which is red, it means that there are other factors impacting later stage, so you can exclude from your analysis. For example, if the patient had COVID, you'd have a red flag there. That means that you cannot compare a length of stay of a patient with COVID and non-COVID, because it wouldn't give you the right level information, will affect your analysis. Another amazing feature of PLIX, and I said this is thanks to our costing legend, this dashboard help you to identify opportunity for SDAC. So it doesn't just look at the condition, the criteria that will you make a patient be suitable for SDAC, but validates as well, looking at patient that's been discharged the day after, without having anything done to her. That's a clear evidence that the patient could be treated at SDAC. And this is all length of stay bed days that have been used for not value adding activity. So you can drill down by diagnosis, by specialty, by consultant, and try to see whether there is an unwarranted variation there, and try to address the problem. Like everything else we talk today so far is about having the starting point to start investigating and understanding and sharing the data with our colleagues. Another fascinating feature of PLIX, and if people who have attended last annual conference have seen this one, because it was presented on stage. And this is a way to see whether a pathway is fragmented or is inconsistent. And this is audiology, is a Sankey chart that reflect audiology pathways. And we ask the question to the consult health service, do you have a standardized pathway? And they say yes. And then we show this Sankey chart and showed all these patients with similar first diagnosis, all treated in different way. So that was a high opening for the service, and very, very appreciated contribution from our finance or costing team. So another feature from PLIX I've been asked to talk today is about red and the green days. So because of PLIX collect that date stamp, we are able to identify what activity has been done per patient per day. And the red days are those days in which there's nothing done to a patient, that in fact we only have overheads allocated on those days to the patient spell. So again, it helps us to look at why, investigate, why, ask the consultant, understand if there is a particular trend, cohort, and a worrying variation of patients that are kept in a bed for unnecessary reasons. Right, moving on. RPA, another amazing innovation we are embracing. We started a couple of years ago. We bought some bots, and we start asking on or identify some area with high volume repetitive manual work that could be replaced by a bot. Firstly, one of the major benefits of RPA is them help us to challenge current process, because in order to automate, you need to map a process. In order, when you map a process, you are able to identify not adding value activity. We found process that have been in place for 20 years where people didn't even know what they do in that way. So that first benefit, it requires resources, it requires knowledge, it requires sponsorship. And we now have Director of Digital Services who has promote RPA in his previous organization, and now is in our next year roadmap. We, in the meantime, the small team has definitely achieved amazing results. An example is consolidation of different file in different format from referral try to consolidate in one single PDF to be uploaded in the digital health record for the consultant to be reviewed. So before we had people downloading documents, printing them, scanning them all together and sending. So by having only implement the automation to this, we saved about 38 days, 39 days. I think this much more than that, because as you know, people have breaks as well, so they are not working 100% all the time. And we reduced our agency spend because we were paying agency staff to do exactly the work. So 11,000 pounds per month, and they cover the cost for all the bots for a year. So only one single automation. And this is just only scratching the surface, because we now going to have the smart card the bot will be able to use, and that open and completely different level of scope for implementation for RPA. So we are really looking forward to go this implemented and start embracing our RPA in full. Just want to talk about a few items before I stop, because linked to productivity, because we are doing the same with less. And this agency spend reduction is a very classic example. So we had specialized HR professional who has joined us with the scope of, with the objective to reduce spend, and not much on quantity reduction, so demand for agency staff, but simply switching costs. So the replacing offering work agency with tier 4, from tier 4 to tier 3, and trying to engage directly with the workforce and try to reduce the cost for exactly the same staff. And we're looking at now the agency reduction for a full year effect about £10 million. The net impact is less than that, because in the meantime we are recruiting for substantive staff, but I would say that realistically a minimum of £3.5 million we save in this year, just paying different rate for the same resource. And as I said before, that's a word. So if you want to quantify people, it's a word. It costs to open a new ward £3.5 million just by switching provider cost or arrangement. Another reduction of costs initiative is being reviewing our coding for COVID expenditure. So we realized that despite COVID patients were going down, we were still spending a lot in COVID. So we reviewed the coding. We realized that there were errors. We removed the reason code for the ledger feed. So for example, reason for requesting agency, we removed the COVID, and we've done an analysis of non-COVID code against COVID code in the same specialty. So for example, a COVID agency band 5 with an agency band 5 in the same cost center, to understand whether the drop in COVID cost was just a coding change or a real spend reduction. So whether spend reduction didn't happen, so we were able to ask to comply or explain. And that is deliver an average so far about almost £500,000 per month in reduction. So with a forecast outturn of £5.6 million. Another important initiative, energy expenditure reduction. You probably all working to try to reach net zero carbon targets. Our estate team has done much more than that, as the most important initiative was engage with the energy broker, allowing us to purchase and sell as well the energy in the wholesale market on 30 minutes tariff change. So it means that we could choose when to buy and when to sell. Combined heat and power generator. gas boiler that when the tariff electricity rate are high, we can produce electricity. When they are low, we use electricity from the grid. So all this amazing approach to energy saved us many million of pounds. I want to give you a number, but close to 10. Because we are still getting to winter, and we need to see what's going to be at the end of the year, the real saving, but it looks amazing for now. Just a few things about get the basic right. These some gripper control measure that you've probably seen on the HFMA self-assessment tool. Before we can do it at the same time, but there's no point in finding productivity in the service when we actually are leaking controls and we're not able to contain and maintain our governance on cost. So I will share these slides, but you probably know all about this. Another important thing, governance. I can say 100% that our engagement level with the service has increased when the accountability was felt at all level organization. When a CEO realized that is a priority for the board to, together with quality, access to care, safety, also the efficient use of resources is an important part of our objective. That becomes easy. I had many times general manager telling me, if it's not my executive priority, why should it be mine? So now this is all changed, as I say, thanks to an awareness almost campaign about how important it is to make sure that we are productive and we are sustainable, but also make sure that we have a regular meeting, we have visibility, we have a PMO office that is constantly on that, analyzing, producing various analyses, make sure compliance with project, make sure milestones, highlighting escalations, item for escalation, and make sure that you have a senior view, the senior kind of review of what's happening in this productivity project, and finally the executive and non-executive director with the financial performance committee, which is a subcommittee of the board. There are other committee who keep an eye on productivity, like the Planned Care Board and Emergency Care Board. Again, senior sponsorship and executive review helps to unblock situation or make sure that people are on top of their objective and make sure they're meeting their milestones. Right, that's been 48 minutes. I'm going to stop now. There's my email address there. As I say, you are so many that probably answering questions now is going to be difficult. So happy for you to send me emails. Probably suggest to use the nhs.net email address. I will also send you those slides in PDF. So my intention now is to see whether between you, I wanted to invite someone who's done something similar. Stop sharing my screen, or someone who want to share some productivity initiative that I didn't cover into this presentation. No hands. Okay, well, let's see whether someone has got a question. Oh yes, question. Claire.
I was interested in how it works. Do you work with your commissioners as well? Because I'm just interested in, one of our problems sometimes is that we can identify the cases and we can become more productive, but we also need to be paid for them, and they need to be in the areas that commissioners actually want us. And obviously I saw from a lot of your tools that there were things around identifying what our wait lists were and all those kind of areas, and they're going to be the areas that commissioners are going to be more interested in. But have you shared, like, when you've done some of these things, how have you got around things like counting and coding and stuff to ensure that actually well, basically it's just, are you engaging with them to enable when you make these brilliant changes that actually you see the benefit quite quickly, or do you have to go down quite a lengthy process then with them?
Well, Commission is involved. We keep a very close eye on our activity, and the answer is depends, because if it's elective care, so we would get paid for, so specific pods. If it's non-elective, our commission knows, we monitor our non-elective activity, and this become part of the contract negotiation with the commissioners. So we had our block payment increased because we've done more surgeries. So we've done a bit less in elective, but our emergency activity as non-elective activity has increased substantially. So we had that kind of uplift to take in consideration the increase in productivity. So our commissioner is aware and help us. It doesn't. We developed a very good relationship in the past few years with the commissioner. So we have an open and honest conversation about our activity, our initiative, our and they're very, very, very cooperative and help us in trying to achieve productivity as well.
And with regard to beds, have you been able to take beds out, or is it literally, or rather close beds, not take them out physically, but have you been able to close beds, or have you literally used the productivity around the bed day savings that's just enabled you to do more activity, I'm assuming, and again, in those kind of maybe non-elective areas?
It's difficult to find a one-to-one relations with the productivity and the beds we close. And because we are such a large organization, we're constantly closing and open beds for several reasons. So I would say that because of our backlog activity, if we save beds, we have, the first slide about flow. So when we save beds, we have less overflow, we have less medically safe patient, we got more elective beds, we try to do more activity. And this month, we went from beginning of the year at close to 100% of 1920, and this month, taking consideration of the striking, but we don't deliver 110%. So it's definitely, we are seeing the results with all this program work. We definitely seeing the result. Flow is we're working on two sides, so some of the capacity has been free up in the wrong place sometimes, but help when we have capacity free up in another side, will help us to plan and say, okay, let's start changing things then if we have capacity on that side because of this productivity initiative. So it's a large moving beast that our planning team is taking consideration. We definitely will be, we try to anticipate the decision of when we free up the bed, what do we do with that? Do we do more elective? Do we empty ED? Do we free up more assessment beds? We try to plan ahead, but obviously, things change very rapidly in an acute hospital. So we try our best. But as I said, the result is there. Closing bed at the moment is probably not the priority because of the backlog we have and because of the arm to patient because of the waiting list. So we take obviously quality and safety for the patient is our priority. So whilst we can try to do that in a sustainable way, but there will be a point where we'll be closing bed. I'm confident that, especially because there is more effort in the community to make sure that the patient are looked after in the right setting and not in the acute setting only.
Thank you. And you've got more options, haven't you, at the end of the day? So thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Well, we've done 52 minutes. Oh, got another question, Michael? Say, Michael,
Yeah.
I think your microphone, you're mute.
Sorry.
Sorry.
My question was about the energy saving.
Yeah.
Is that £10 million projected for this year, or is that the cumulative amount since it started?
So we already, so we are comparing from last year. We removed the budget last year. I think it's about £10 million budget because of this initiative. And we are underspending against the budget this year. So it probably will be definitely a full year effect of the £1 million, no year to date, but possibly even more than that. I mean, if you are interested, I can put in contact with our energy gurus who are doing all this good work. And Nina?
Yeah. Hi, Luca. Thanks very much for the presentation. I'm just interested in the platform that you used for robotic process automation.
So I'm not the expert in robot process automation. We start using a private provider, and so we are currently using we are in a process of switching, and we're using cloud processing. So initially we had the bots, we had the hardware in-house. We're now switching to a cloud solution. I can, if you contact directly, I can make you speak with a person who's done the due diligence about the provider, because there are many aspects to consider. I can't tell you this is the best, because it depends on what you want. But we've done a little bit of a good procurement exercise for that.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries. Claire,
just a quick admin question as to whether or not the recording could be shared, because I'm just thinking this would be really helpful for our BI teams to actually see what you've actually done, because some of this will be about trying to what we've currently got with regard to BI, what we need to have, you know, how do we do everything that we could do, etc. And rather than a finance person secondhand trying to explain to BI, I mean, you can explain what you want, but not necessarily that it actually exists and can happen. Whereas it might be really helpful for them us to actually send them the recording so they can see it themselves. I don't know if that's possible.
Sorry, I was on mute myself there. The recording is going to be posted onto our showcase sessions channel on our virtual finance network. If anyone doesn't have access to that, if you just pop your email in the chat, I can add you to it and you can download the recording there.
That would be brilliant. Thank you.
No problem.
And also we, as a value makers on NUH, we like to share experience as well with our organization. So we cooperate with other trusts in specific teams like costing, productivity, financial accounts. So we meet with other organizations, try to share our experience, hopefully best practice. So we always open to arrange contact and people, the experts in the field, to meet and discuss possible knowledge sharing. So feel free to contact me and try to facilitate that.
That's brilliant. Thank you.
Okay. Right. If there are no other questions, thank you so much for being so patient, and I hope you managed to understand what I was saying, because I'm aware I got very strong accent sometimes. When I speak fast, I forget about other people might not understand. So hopefully you got everything. I met your expectation today, and as I say, feel free to contact me, and I'll be happy to put you in contact with the right people and work together. Right. We're okay to close the session then.
Thank you
Right.
so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, very helpful.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Bye
coming.
bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Luca. If you would like to send your slides over to me, I'm happy to circulate them for you. Because I have everyone's emails anyway.
Will it be okay so for the upload, will it be okay to do on oh no, you just do the recording. I'm thinking we'll just create a PDF and send it to you.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Thank you very
Perfect.
much.
See you